In this video, I'm going to show you how to use ArcPro's 3D capabilities and some Esri published datasets to investigate the Martian surface in a similar way to how we would investigate the terrestrial surface. So if you're looking at this 3D globe and thinking, how did we even get this? Here it is, really quick and simple. When you open up a new ArcPro project, this is the map you are greeted with. To change this into a globe, you're going to go to View, Convert to a global scene. After this renders, this is what you're looking at. Okay, so to get this to be a Mars globe instead of an Earth globe, it takes a few more steps than just this, because the Martian data sets aren't automatically uploaded like they are here. So the first thing you're going to do is head to this website. This is the repository for Esri's Astro datasets. It includes some common datasets like the HRSC MOLA shaded relief. This is a Viking-derived global image mosaic. We also have an elevation layer, so elevation raster DEM there that we'll be using, as well as an image mosaic dataset for the high-rise instrument. So what you do to start, so you're going to click on this dataset, and you're going to open this in ArcPro. Now when you click this button, you start to get a download, and you will find that file wherever your downloads are stored. So I'm just going to go ahead and open that file. It opens up a new ArcPro. Now, to do this every time you want to look at a Mars globe is not really efficient. So what I suggest doing once everything has loaded up is saving this as a layer file that you can then call up whenever you need to. I've already done that step, but we'll just work from this data set right here. So again, to get this to be a globe, all we do is go to View, Convert to a global scene. And this is what we come up with. A lot of you might be familiar with this view of Mars showing showing Valles Marineris. Because we're concerned with Mars datasets today, I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of the terrestrial data, because it just takes a long time to render and we don't need it. We are just going to keep this ground surface here for a second. So if you zoom in on Valles Marineris and start to pan around in this 3D image, you're going to notice that the globe is still totally flat. And that's because this MOLA colorized shaded relief image is being draped over a terrestrial world elevation terrain, which obviously does us no good on Mars. So what we're going to do is bring in Martian ground surface. And that's where this data set comes in. Now, unlike the MOLA data set or even the high-rise or the Viking data set, which I'll show you in a minute, this MOLA data set, this particular MOLA data set, cannot be opened in quite the same manner. So what you're going to need to do is head to its source in the PDS, the Planetary Data System, for the USGS, and you're going to download the original TIFF. It is 11 gigabytes. It will take maybe half an hour to download, so make sure you give yourself enough time for that. But once it is downloaded and it's saved in a file, you can obviously call it up whenever you need to. So I'm just going to move that back over. So I'm going to add in a ground surface here. And once it loads up this might be what you find. Not particularly useful as a two-dimensional layer, but very useful as a three-dimensional layer. So we're just going to go ahead and bring that down to the ground there. And at the same time, we're going to remove the terrestrial data set. It might take a few seconds to load, so just give your system a bit of time there. Now if we zoom in, we might start to see a little more relief. Now, if we want to exaggerate this relief, if you highlight ground here, it's not going to work if you just highlight the layer. You got to highlight ground, go to appearance, and you can change the vertical exaggeration. That always takes a little bit of time to render, but as you can see, we can start to see some actual topography here. So now that we've got our base maps, basically, and we're going to do I'm going to show you a couple of different things. So going back to that website, Esri Astro, we had up here, I'm going to bring in a couple more layers. So I'm going to bring in the high-rise image mosaic and the colorized global image mosaic. Now, I've already saved these to a working folder, so I don't have to go in and open them in ArcGIS Pro. So let me go back, and these are 2D data layers, so let's look at them in 2 dimensions for now. First is the high-rise image mosaic, and these are all of the high-rise images. Let's go back to Valles Marineris that have been taken by the high-rise instrument up until this was last updated on the 8th of January 2020. So there are still a fair few that are not included since the releases since the beginning of the year. But this gives you a good indication of what's actually around. So this is what this particular data set looks like. So you can turn off the background. You can see good chunks of Mars are photographed in 25 centimeter per pixel or better imagery. Next up here, we've got the colorized global image mosaic, and this was compiled using Viking images. So this might be familiar to some. Let's head back down to Valles Marineris. Pretty remarkable. And finally, we're going to bring in a label file that's going to be able to name all these areas on Mars. Now, this label file is first stored as a buffered file, which doesn't quite look like a workable format for what we need it for right now. But if you were to open up the attribute table, you'd see that each of these buffers does have a name attached to it. So we are able to label these buffers, but perhaps a better way to do that would be to make these buffers points and then to make the points have labels. So let's do that now. So if you go to geoprocessing, oh, I had already done it. You are going to search for your feature to point tool. Now, if your geoprocessing isn't docked like it is on mine, you can go to, analysis, tools, and then geoprocessing. So let's go feature to point. We're going to choose the buffer, and we're going to run that tool. And what we get is a point in the middle of each buffer that's on this map. So let's turn off that buffer tool for a second. So right now the labels aren't attached to these points, but we can change that easily by going up to the feature layer, under labeling. We're going to choose the labels, click it, and the field is going to be the clean name. So let's give that a second to pop up here. Okay, so a very busy map, but now we have all of the named areas on Mars. I don't particularly like the symbology, so I'm just going to change that real quick and make it so that the label, the dots are almost impossible to see. So we're just left with the names. Okay, now that we've got everything sort of loaded in, we're going to look at some of this now in 3D. So we're still at this globe because none of the 2D map layers have been brought over, but we can change that. So let's copy, bring over, and paste those layers into our 3D map file. So we'll go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so I brought all those over, and let's say I want to investigate Valles Marineris a little closer. Let's head over to our 2D map, and let's just, for the time being, turn off the label files. So I want to specifically look at this area right here. So I'm going to add a bookmark. Valles Marineris 1. And now I want to look at this particular area in 3 dimensions. Well, I could just zoom to it and hope I find the same area, or I can go to bookmarks and I can zoom straight to this area. As you can see, we have a number of different layers that are turned on. I'm just going to turn off the nomenclature one. And we can start to zoom around and check out how those high-rise images are draped over the elevation raster here. So in my, perusal of this area, I'm going to start to head off and, follow a ridge system or zoom out and find something else interesting over here that I now want to measure in 2D. Well, I'm still stuck, on this first interesting element we found. There is a way to link these two maps together so that they constantly follow each other. So let's go back to the 3D here, and you're going to right click and you're going to choose New Vertical Tab Group. This puts the two tabs next to each other. And then you're going to go into View, Link Views, Center and Scale. So now, anytime I move my 3D view, my 2D view also moves, and vice versa. So I will never again get lost between both of my views, my 2D map and then my 3D map. I'm going to leave this tutorial here because obviously there's a lot more that can be done with Pro's 3D capabilities and all of the data that we have from Mars. So I don't want to overwhelm at this point, but this gives you a good starting point to investigate the red planet. Let me turn off some of these. And have fun flying around, checking things out, and thanks for watching.